The night was black and heavy, like a storm hiding its anger behind the clouds. The air smelled of metal and rain. Far away, thunder growled across the alien sky. On an empty rail line that cut through the red plains, lightning flashed for a second, and in that flash, something moved. It was a woman. She lay chained to the metal tracks, her pale blue skin shining faintly under the stormlight. Her silver eyes opened slowly, reflecting the dark clouds above. The wind pushed her long white hair across her face, and she tried to speak, but her voice came out weak and broken. "Kyle," she whispered. The name left her lips like a wound that refused to close. For a long moment, she lay still. Then, with a sharp pull, she tried to move her arms, but the metal chains held her tight. Her wrists were bleeding. Every time she struggled, the chains bit deeper into her skin. She looked around. No one was there. No guards, no soldiers. Just the endless track stretching into the distance, leading toward the sound of a faraway engine. The sound grew louder with every second. She could hear it now, the deep rumble of a train engine moving fast. Her eyes widened. The storm was not her enemy anymore. The train was Lyra, that was her name. A warrior once, a diplomat later. Now a prisoner left to die. She remembered Cale's face, calm, charming, full of false promises. Hours ago he told her he would protect her, that he had a ship ready, that everything would be fine. She had believed him. She always did. But when she stepped aboard his hover transport, soldiers were waiting. Dominion soldiers, the same army she had tried to stop. Kyle had sold her to them. Her heart broke as she remembered the look in his eyes. Not guilt, not sadness, just ambition. "It's not personal, Lyra," he had said before leaving. "It's survival." Now she was here on the cold metal, waiting for death to come in the form of a train. The rain started to pour harder. It stung her face like needles. She pulled again and again, but the chains didn't move. Her strength was fading. The sound of the train grew so loud now that the ground trembled beneath her. Her breath came fast. She tried to scream, but her throat was dry and weak. The train was coming closer, its lights now visible through the rain, a bright white line cutting through the darkness. She closed her eyes. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was how her story ended, betrayed and forgotten. But then, something strange happened. A new light appeared, smaller, closer. It flickered through the rain, moving fast, bouncing as if someone was running, and then she heard it. A voice, deep, human. "Hey, hold on!" Her eyes opened. She blinked against the rain. A figure was running toward her, holding something bright, a flashlight. No, not a soldier. Not Dominion armor. It was a human man, soaked from head to toe, his boots splashing through the mud. He saw the train, then saw her chained to the tracks. He didn't stop. He ran faster. Lyra tried to speak. Go away," she gasped. "You'll die." But he didn't listen. He reached her side, dropped to his knees, and pulled a small blade from his belt. "Who did this to you?" He shouted over the noise. She couldn't answer. The train's horn screamed, echoing through the storm. He saw the chains and started cutting at them. Sparks flew as the blade hit metal. The train was seconds away now, the light blinding, the air shaking with power. Come on!" He muttered, working faster. Lyra turned her head to the side and whispered, "Why are you helping me?" "Because you're alive," he said, gritting his teeth. "And I don't leave people to die." One chain snapped. Then another. He grabbed her arm, pulled hard, and together they rolled off the track just as the train thundered past. The ground shook. The wind from the passing cars nearly threw them back. Lyra screamed, but the sound was lost in the roar. Then silence, only the rain falling softly again. The human sat beside her, breathing hard, covered in mud. His brown eyes studied her face for a long second. "You're not human," he said quietly. Lyra coughed, trying to speak, but words failed her. She looked at him, this stranger who had risked his life for her. Her mind was full of questions. Who was he? Why was he here on this forbidden planet? But before she could ask, darkness took her again. The human caught her as she collapsed and whispered to himself, "Don't worry. I've got you." Above them, thunder rolled again, as if the storm itself was watching. Somewhere in the distance, a new light flickered, red, sharp, and moving closer. Dominion patrols. The rescue had been seen, and the night was far from over. Rain fell harder now, washing the blood and dust from the alien woman's face. The man held her in his arms, breathing fast, his heart still racing from what had just happened. He looked at her again, pale blue skin, glowing veins under her wrists, silver eyes half open. She was light, too light, as if she hadn't eaten in days. He spoke softly. "Hey, stay with me." No answer. He looked around. The tracks stretched endlessly into the storm. The Dominion lights he'd seen earlier were growing brighter, drones searching the area. If they found him with her, it would be over. He cursed under his breath, lifted her up, and started moving toward the nearby cliffs. Each step was heavy, but he didn't stop. His name was Ethan Cross, a crash survivor from the human colony ship Vanguard. His mission had failed 2 weeks ago, and now he was alone on this forbidden planet. He'd seen death, hunger, and storms, but nothing like this. As he climbed toward an old metal tower half buried in the red dirt, he thought about her face, not just alien, but peaceful, even in pain. What kind of creature could look so human and so different at the same time? He pushed open the rusted door of the tower and stepped inside. The smell of oil and damp air hit him. Broken screens flickered weakly on the walls. He laid her gently on the floor. She didn't move. For a second, fear hit him. What if she was dead? He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. There, a pulse. Faint, but there. Ethan sighed in relief. Good. You're still here. He took off his jacket, covered her with it, and began looking for supplies. The tower had been abandoned for years. Old Dominion machines hummed quietly in the corners. He found a med pack under a broken console. It was half empty, but it would do. As he cleaned her wounds, her eyes opened suddenly, bright glowing silver. She gasped and pulled away from him, trying to sit up. "Where am I?" "Safe," Ethan said, raising his hands to calm her. "You were on the tracks. I pulled you out." Her eyes darted around the room. "Why, who are you?" "Name's Ethan," he said. "I'm human." At that word, human, she froze. Her body tensed and fear crossed her face. "Human," she whispered. "You shouldn't be here." "I could say the same to you," Ethan said. "What were you doing chained out there?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the rain dripping from the ceiling. Ethan sat across from her, studying her silently. The light from a broken lamp flickered between them, painting shadows on her face. Finally, she said, "I was betrayed." He nodded slowly. "By who?" "Someone I trusted." Her voice cracked, full of pain and anger. "He promised safety. He gave me to them instead." "The Dominion?" Ethan asked, her eyes lifted to him sharply. "You know that name?" "I've been hiding from them since my ship crashed," he said. "They shot us down when we entered orbit." She looked at him for a long time. "Then you should not have saved me." "They will come for me, and now they will come for you." Ethan gave a tired smile. "Story of my life." He stood and looked out through a cracked window. In the distance, faint red lights moved, search drones scanning the area. They were getting closer. He turned back to her. "We can't stay here long." She tried to stand but stumbled. Ethan caught her before she fell. Her skin was cold, almost electric to the touch. He looked into her eyes and said, "You're not just a prisoner, are you?" Lyra hesitated, her lips parting as if to speak, but something stopped her. Instead, she whispered, "If I tell you the truth, you'll wish you had left me." Ethan met her gaze. "Try me." For a moment, the storm outside seemed to quiet. The world narrowed to the 2 of them, human and alien, both survivors, both running from something bigger than themselves. Lyra finally said, "My name is Lyra Cathal. I was part of the Council of Peace. I tried to stop the Dominion from starting a new war. They called me a traitor." Ethan frowned. "And the man who betrayed you?" Her eyes went cold. "Kyle, my protector." "My friend," she looked down. "He said he loved me." Ethan stayed silent. He knew that kind of betrayal, the kind that leaves scars you can't see. Suddenly, a soft beeping came from the wall. A scanner light swept across the tower. "Dominion Patrol." Lyra's eyes widened. "They've found us." Ethan grabbed his gear and pulled her to her feet. "Then we run." They burst out of the tower into the storm again. The rain hit their faces as red searchlights cut through the darkness behind them. Lyra's breath came short and fast. "Why are you helping me, human?" "You don't even know me!" Ethan looked at her as they ran through the mud. Because someone has to. A bolt of plasma hit the ground beside them. Exploding in a flash, they kept running. And as the storm swallowed their footsteps, Lyra glanced at Ethan again, this stranger who risked everything for her. For the first time in years, she felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. The storm finally faded as night turned into a gray morning. The red sky above them was quiet, but the world below was not. Smoke rose from the far hills where Dominion patrols searched for any trace of the runaway alien woman. Ethan and Lyra moved silently through the wasteland. Rusted metal scraps and broken machines covered the ground. They passed the skeletons of ships half buried in the dirt, reminders of wars long gone. Ethan stopped near a wrecked shuttle and looked around. "We should rest here for a while," he said. Lyra nodded weakly. Her steps were slow, her face pale. Every movement looked painful. She sank to the ground near a piece of broken hull and leaned against it. For a while, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the wind, whistling through the ruins. Ethan finally said, "You said you were part of a council. What kind of council was it?" Lyra stared at the red dust swirling around her feet. "The Council of Peace," she whispered. "A group of leaders from both our world, humans and my kind. We wanted to end the fighting before it began again." Ethan frowned. "I thought the war ended decades ago." Lyra gave a sad smile. "Wars don't end, Ethan. They only sleep until someone wakes them up again." He looked at her, unsure what to say. She continued, "The Dominion wants control of the galaxy. They believe peace is weakness. I stood against them. I thought Kale stood with me. I was wrong." Her voice trembled on that last word. Ethan sat down across from her. "You loved him, didn't you?" Lyra looked away. "I trusted him. That was my mistake." The silence that followed was heavy. The morning light broke through the clouds, painting the metal ruins in shades of orange and gold. Ethan pulled out a small pack of rations from his bag and handed one to her. "Here, eat." She stared at the package, confused. "What is it?" "Food," he said simply. "Human food. It's not great, but it'll keep you alive." Lyra hesitated, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened slightly. "It's salty," Ethan laughed softly. "Yeah, you get used to it." For the first time, a small smile touched her lips. But it faded quickly when she noticed something in the distance, faint lights moving between the ruins. "Drones," she said quietly. Ethan followed her gaze and cursed under his breath. "We can't fight them." Lyra closed her eyes for a second, breathing deeply. When she opened them again, they glowed faintly silver. Ethan stared. "What's happening to your eyes?" "Don't look," she said quickly, turning away. "Just stay back." Before he could ask, she raised her hand slightly. The air around them seemed to shift, like the world itself was holding its breath. The lights of the drones flickered, once, twice, then all went dark. A moment later, they dropped from the sky, crashing into the dirt one by one. Ethan looked around in shock. "What did you just do?" Lyra's body trembled. Her glowing veins dimmed and she fell to her knees, gasping. "It's a gift," she whispered weakly. "Or maybe a curse." He ran to her side, catching her before she fell completely. "You have powers?" She nodded slowly. "Every member of my kind is born with something unique. Mine can stop machines, for a time, but it drains me." Ethan looked at the fallen drones. "That's not just a gift. That's survival." She looked up at him. "It's also the reason they want me dead." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "The Dominion fears what I can do," Lyra said softly. "They believe I hold something more, something they call the biocode. They think it's hidden inside me." He blinked. "Biocode? It's hard to explain. A living key, a power that can control machines, maybe even end wars. But I don't know if it's real." Ethan looked uneasy. "So you're telling me you might be carrying a weapon inside you?" Her voice was almost a whisper. "Not a weapon, a choice." The way she said it made him shiver. Suddenly, the broken radio on the ground beside them crackled to life. Static filled the air, then a voice, and calm, cold, and familiar. "Lyra," it said, "you're wasting your time running." Her blood froze. She knew that voice, Kale, she whispered. The voice continued. "The Dominion will find you. The human can't save you. He'll die trying. Come back and I'll make your end painless." Ethan stepped forward, eyes burning. "You must be the traitor." Kyle's voice laughed through the static. "And you must be the fool." Then the signal cut out. Lyra's hands trembled. "He knows we're alive. He's coming." Ethan helped her stand. Then we better move before he does. The wind howled through the ruins as they began to walk again, two shadows against a dying world, hunted by enemies they could barely understand. Lyra looked back one last time at the broken drones, their light still glowing faintly in the dust. She whispered to herself, "The biocode. If it's real, it could change everything." Ethan heard her and frowned. "Change what?" Lyra's eyes met his, glowing once more. "The fate of every living thing." The sun burned weakly through the dusty clouds as Ethan and Lyra crossed the wasteland. The wind had grown sharp, carrying the sound of distant engines. Something was hunting them. Ethan moved quickly, scanning the horizon through a cracked visor. "We're being followed," he said quietly. Lyra didn't need to be told. She could feel it, the faint hum of machines in the air, the electric pulse that crawled across her skin. Her kind could sense Dominion tech the way humans sensed fear. "We must keep moving," she said. "If they catch us, they won't ask questions." Ethan gripped his weapon tighter. It was an old human plasma rifle, scratched and half working, but it was all he had. "Then let's make sure they don't." They reached a valley filled with wrecked ships. The metal graveyard stretched for miles, twisted engines, shattered cockpits, old flags half buried in the red dust. Ethan stopped beside one of the larger wrecks. "We can rest inside this one for a bit," he said. "It might hide us from scanners." Lyra hesitated but followed. Inside, the air was thick with rust and silence. Broken seats lined the walls. The floor was covered in sand and bones. Ethan checked the corners, then set down his pack. "You ever been here before?" Lyra shook her head. "No, but this place feels familiar, like a memory I never lived." He raised an eyebrow. "Creepy memory, maybe." She smiled faintly, a small, tired smile that vanished as a sharp sound echoed outside, a faint metallic click. Then another. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Drones. Before they could move, red lights flooded the valley. Dominion recon units, small spider-like machines, scuttled across the wreckage, their scanners sweeping the sand. Ethan whispered, "We stay low. Don't move." They crouched behind a broken wall, breath held. One of the drones stopped only a few meters away. Its red eye flickered, scanning. Lyra's pulse quickened. The glow in her veins began to return, faint and trembling. Ethan noticed it. "Don't," he whispered. "You're too weak. You'll burn yourself out." She shook her head. "It's the only way." Before he could stop her, she raised one trembling hand. The air shimmered again, the same strange distortion he'd seen before. The drone froze mid-scan. Its red light turned blue, then blinked out completely. The others twitched and fell, their systems shorting out one by one. The valley went silent, but so did Lyra. She collapsed forward, her body hitting the floor. "Lyra." Ethan caught her and lowered her gently. Her eyes were half open, glowing faintly. I can't control it for long," she whispered. "Each time it takes more." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then don't use it again. We'll find another way," but before he could say more, a deep rumble echoed from above. He looked up through the shattered roof now and saw them, 3 Dominion ships, black and sharp like knives, descending through the red clouds. "Too late," he said. The ships landed hard, shaking the ground. Doors opened and soldiers poured out, tall armored figures with red visors and energy rifles. Ethan pulled Lyra behind cover. "Stay here." "Don't move," she grabbed his wrist weakly. "You can't fight them all." He looked down at her, his face set. "I don't need to. Just long enough for you to get away." Before she could argue, he was gone, slipping out the side of the wreck. He moved fast, keeping low, firing short bursts from his rifle. One Dominion soldier went down, then another. But there were too many. Plasma bolts cut through the air, lighting up the valley in blinding flashes. Inside the wreck, Lyra tried to stand, her body shaking. She could hear his voice outside, shouting, grunting, fighting. Something inside her broke. She could not let another human die for her. Not again. Her veins flared bright silver. She closed her eyes and whispered in her own language, words of power and pain. The wreck around her began to hum. The air filled with static. Outside, every Dominion weapon sparked and died. The soldiers turned in confusion. Their visors flickered. Their rifles went dead. Ethan turned too, his eyes wide. "Lyra." Then a blinding pulse exploded from the wreckage, a wave of light that swept across the valley. Dominion soldiers fell to the ground unconscious. The ship's engines went silent. When the light faded, everything was still. Ethan ran back inside. Lyra lay on the floor again, barely breathing. He knelt beside her, shaking her gently. "Lyra, hey, stay with me." She opened her eyes weakly. "I told you." "It's a curse," he smiled faintly. "Yeah, well, it's a pretty useful curse right now." She gave a tired laugh. "You risked your life again, human." He looked at her seriously. "Name's Ethan, you can stop calling me human." She smiled softly. "Then, thank you, Ethan." He glanced outside. Smoke rose from the fallen ships. "We have to move before they call reinforcements." Lyra nodded weakly. "There's a safe place ahead. An old signal tower near the border. If we reach it, we can send a message." Ethan lifted her into his arms again. "Then that's where we're going." As he carried her through the silent valley, the red sky darkened once more. But far above them, unseen through the clouds, another ship watched, sleek, silver, and marked with one name, Kale. And the man inside smiled. "The human thinks he saved her," he said quietly. "But he's only leading her straight to me." The wind had turned cold by the time Ethan reached the edge of the wasteland. In his arms, Lyra stirred weakly, her head resting against his shoulder. Every few steps he could feel her trembling. Every few minutes she whispered words in a language he didn't know. At last they reached what she had called the signal tower. It stood like a dark tooth against the horizon, half buried, broken, and lonely. Ethan kicked the door open and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust. Screens lined the walls, their glass cracked but still humming faintly with blue light. He laid her gently on a metal table. "You need rest," he said. She looked at him with tired eyes. "There's no time." "The Dominion won't stop," he crouched beside her. "You can barely stand. You'll rest first, talk later." She tried to argue, but he had that look, and the kind that said he wasn't asking. So she leaned back, silent. For a while the tower was quiet except for the hum of old machines. Ethan searched the cabinets until he found a power cell still glowing. He connected it to one of the consoles, and the screens flickered to life. Maps appeared, coordinates, and faint signals from the sky. Then he saw something that froze him. A red beacon, Dominion frequency, when I was moving toward them. Fast. "Great," he muttered. "We've got company again." Lyra sat up slowly. "It's Kale," she said softly, as if she could feel him. "He's tracking me through the biocode." Ethan turned to her. That word again. "What is it, really?" She hesitated. Her hands trembled as she looked down at the faint silver glow under her skin. "You want the truth?" "I think I've earned it," he said. She nodded. "Then listen." Her voice became distant, almost hollow, as she spoke. "My people were created to protect balance. Long ago, the ancients made something, a code written into our very blood. It could connect to any living system, any machine, the biocode. It was meant to keep peace," Ethan frowned, "and now the Dominion wants to use it as a weapon." "Yes," she whispered. "The code responds only to trust, to emotion. To bond with it, someone must share the same purpose. Kale wanted power. I wanted peace. So the code chose me." She looked away, tears shining in her eyes. "He called me weak, said peace was a lie." Ethan's jaw tightened. "So he betrayed you for it," she nodded slowly. "He told them I would surrender the code if they killed the human colonies first. He lied to both sides. He always does." The words sank into Ethan's mind like stones. "And you're sure he's coming here?" "I can feel him," she said quietly. "The biocode is linked to him too. He touched it once, through me. That connection never broke." Ethan looked out the cracked window at the horizon where thunderheads glowed red. "Then we break it now." Lyra studied him. "You don't even know how." He smiled faintly. "I didn't know how to rescue an alien from a train either. But here we are." A small laugh escaped her. The first in days. But it faded quickly when a sharp sound echoed outside. Thud. Then another. Ethan grabbed his rifle and moved to the door. Through the dust, he saw 3 Dominion scouts approaching. "Stay down," he said. He waited until they were close, then opened fire. 2 fell immediately. The third fired back. Bolts of plasma scorching the tower wall. Ethan ducked, rolled, and fired again, a clean hit. Silence followed. When he turned back, Lyra was standing, I was barely, but her eyes were glowing. "I told you not to move," he said. "I had to see," she replied softly. "You fight like someone who's already lost everything." He froze. Maybe I have. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Pain, respect, something close to trust. Then the console beeped sharply. The radar showed a large ship entering orbit. Lyra's face went pale. It's him. Kale's here, Ethan cursed. Then we've got minutes, not hours. She stepped closer to him. If he captures me, he'll use the biocode to control the Dominion and the human fleets. The galaxy will burn. Then we don't let him take you, Ethan said. There must be another way. Her voice lowered. There is one. But it will kill me. Ethan turned sharply. No, she met his eyes. If I destroy the biocode, Kale loses everything. But once it's gone, I die with it. It's part of me. He shook his head. I didn't save you just to watch you die. You don't have a choice, she whispered. Neither do I. For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the storm thickened. Lightning lit the clouds like veins of fire. Ethan finally said, Then we'll find another choice. Together. Lyra looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time since her betrayal, she felt something strong and real. Belief. She touched his hand. The code reacts to trust. Maybe it will listen to you. Before Ethan could answer, the sky above the tower split open. A beam of blue light poured down, shaking the ground. Kyle's voice echoed through the storm. Lyra, my love. Come home. Ethan raised his rifle. Looks like he found us. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter than ever. Then let him see what he created. Outside, the Dominion soldiers landed in rows. Inside the tower, a human and an alien stood side by side, the light of one heart, and the will of another. And as the storm roared, the final battle began to rise on the horizon. The sky above the signal tower turned black. Lightning tore across the red clouds as Kale's warship descended, its shadow swallowing the land. The air trembled with the hum of its engines. Inside the tower, alarms screamed. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan steadied his rifle, breathing hard. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes glowing brighter than he had ever seen. He's here, she said softly. Ethan glanced at her. Then we finish this. Outside, Dominion soldiers poured from the dropships and armored giants moving in perfect formation. They surrounded the tower like a dark tide. Kale's voice echoed from the ship above. Lyra Cathal, he called, calm and cold. You cannot hide from me anymore. Lyra stepped to the broken window. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. You betrayed everything we stood for. Kale's reply came like a whisper carried by thunder. I saved our kind. You were too weak to see it. Peace is a dream for fools. Ethan looked at her. He talks too much. She gave a small, broken smile. He always did. Then the attack began. Bolts of blue plasma rained down from the Dominion lines. The tower shook under the bombardment. Ethan fired back, his shots clean and sharp. Every hit dropped another soldier, but there were too many. Move, he shouted, pulling Lyra toward the stairwell. We need higher ground. They ran up the spiral stairs as explosions tore through the walls. Shards of metal flew like knives. When they reached the top, Lyra raised her hands, her veins glowing silver again. A dome of light formed around the tower, shielding them for a moment. Kale's voice thundered again. You can't win, Lyra. The biocode belongs to me. Lyra shouted back. It never belonged to anyone. Her shield began to crack. The strain was too much. She gasped, falling to her knees. Ethan caught her before she collapsed. Stop! You'll kill yourself. She shook her head. If I stop, everyone dies. Her power flared again, pushing the soldiers back. But blood ran from her nose now. Ethan gritted his teeth. He'd seen enough death in his life. Too many promises broken, too many good people lost. Not this time. He lifted his rifle and fired at the ship's engines. Sparks flew. The ship groaned under the impact, but it didn't fall. Then Kale appeared. He descended from the ship on a platform of light, his armor gleaming black and silver. His face was calm, handsome, and full of cruel certainty. Lyra, he said softly, stepping toward her. You could have ruled beside me. We could have rebuilt the stars. She looked up at him, eyes full of sorrow. You destroyed what we were supposed to protect. Kale smiled faintly. And now I'll finish what you started. He raised his hand. Energy crackled around his arm. The same silver light that glowed in her veins. Ethan froze. He's got your power. Lyra's eyes widened. He took part of the code. When he betrayed me. Cale turned his gaze to Ethan. And this human, this fragile thing you care for, he'll die first. Before he could strike, Ethan fired. The blast hit Cale square in the chest, but the armor absorbed it. Cale laughed. Brave but useless. He hurled a wave of energy. Ethan was thrown back, crashing into the wall. His rifle clattered to the floor. Lyra screamed. No! Something inside her broke open. The biocode flared to life. Her entire body glowed with pure silver light. The storm outside went silent. Cale stepped back, eyes wide. What are you doing? She rose slowly, floating above the ground. Finishing this. The light spread from her to every machine around them. Dominion weapons melted. Engines shut down. The sky itself seemed to bend under the power. Cale tried to fight it, his own light clashing against hers. You'll destroy yourself, he shouted. Maybe, she said, but I won't let you destroy anyone else. Ethan struggled to his feet, shouting over the roar, Lyra, stop. You'll die. She turned to him, her face peaceful now. Thank you, Ethan, for showing me what trust feels like. Then she reached out, and the light exploded. A blinding wave of silver fire consumed the tower, sweeping across the battlefield. Dominion soldiers vanished in the light. Cale screamed, his body breaking apart into sparks, and then silence. When the light faded, the tower was gone. Only dust and smoke remained. Ethan lay on the ground, half buried under debris. His vision blurred, but he was alive. He crawled up, coughing, calling her name. Lyra! Lyra! No answer, only the soft wind moving through the ruins. He looked around and saw a single silver shard glowing in the dirt, warm and pulsing faintly. He picked it up, and a whisper touched his mind. The war ends. Because you believed. He closed his eyes, tears mixing with the dust on his face. The storm clouds began to break, and the first light of dawn touched the horizon. Ethan stood among the wreckage, holding the glowing shard to his chest. The Dominion was gone. The sky was quiet, but his heart felt both heavy and full. He whispered to the empty air, Rest now, Lyra, you did it. And far above, in the morning light, something shimmered, a faint shape. A woman made of silver light watching silently before fading into the sky. The battlefield was quiet. Ash drifted through the air like snow, glowing faintly in the light of the new sun. The storm had passed, leaving the sky soft and gold. The world smelled of smoke, metal, and something else. Peace. Ethan stood in the ruins of the old signal tower, his clothes torn, his face streaked with dust and blood. Around him lay the wrecks of Dominion machines, twisted and silent. The ground still pulsed with the faint silver glow left by Lyra's final act. He looked down at the small shard he held, the last piece of her light. It shimmered gently in his palm, alive but fading. For a long time he just stood there. Then he whispered, You saved them all. His voice broke. He had fought and lost so many people in his life, but losing her felt different. Like losing a part of himself he hadn't known was missing. A soft wind moved through the ruins, brushing his face. It almost felt like a touch, Lyra, he murmured. If you can hear me, I'll keep your promise. He turned toward the horizon. Far away, the human base shimmered under the rising sun. Smoke still rose from the Dominion ships, now empty shells. The war that could have ended the galaxy was over, because one alien woman believed in peace. Ethan began walking, slow and tired, but alive. Hours later, the gates of the human base opened. Soldiers rushed out, weapons raised, until they saw him. One of them shouted, It's Cross. He's alive. Hands helped him inside. Medics took the shard from his hand carefully, studying it with wide eyes. What is this? One of them asked. Ethan smiled faintly. A miracle. They carried him to the infirmary, but his thoughts stayed far away. Every sound, every flicker of light reminded him of her voice, her courage, her sadness, and that final look before the explosion of light. He couldn't forget it. He didn't want to. Days passed. The base slowly came back to life. Dominion frequencies went silent across the planet. Human and alien survivors began to talk again. Cautious, uncertain, but hopeful. Ethan spent his days helping rebuild communication towers. At night he walked to the cliffs overlooking the wasteland, where the tower once stood. Each night he saw the same thing, a faint shimmer of silver dust floating in the air where she had vanished. He talked to it sometimes, half believing she could hear him. I don't know if peace will last, he would say quietly. But I'll try, Lyra. You trusted me once. I won't waste it. One evening, as he stood there again, the wind shifted. The air glowed softly around him. The shard in his pocket began to hum. He pulled it out and it floated from his hand, shining brighter than ever. A voice echoed in his mind, clear and warm. You kept your promise. He froze. Lyra? The light shimmered, forming a faint shape, her shape. Not solid, not real, but enough. Her silver eyes looked at him full of peace. Don't be afraid, she said. Part of the biocode lived on right inside you. It grew because you believed. Because you cared. Ethan shook his head, half laughing, half crying. I thought you were gone. I am, she said softly, but not completely. The code was never about power. It was about trust. You proved that a human heart could carry it. The light began to fade slowly, but her smile remained. What now? He asked quietly. Now you lead, she said. Show them that peace is more than a dream. He nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. I'll try. Her light drifted closer, touching his chest, and then vanished, sinking into him like starlight melting into water. For a moment, he felt warmth spread through his body, gentle, alive, familiar. Her voice echoed once more. The war began with betrayal, but peace began with a human. When the light was gone, he stood there alone, but he didn't feel alone anymore. The sun rose higher, painting the land in bright gold. The wind carried the scent of new beginnings. Behind him, the flags of both races, human and alien, fluttered side by side above the rebuilt base. Soldiers from both sides worked together, clearing wrecks, planting seeds in the dust. Ethan turned one last time toward the horizon. The silver dust sparkled faintly in the wind, then scattered, joining the sunlight. He smiled and whispered, Goodbye, Lyra. Then he walked back toward the base, toward the world she had saved. Each step was heavy but full of purpose. He knew the scars of war would never fade completely. But maybe, just maybe, peace would. And somewhere far beyond the sky where stars met silence, a voice whispered with pride, soft, eternal, and full of light. She was never truly gone, because humanity remembered her.